You know, I feel like I've had many bad days in the past. Like, really bad days. But this is not just a bad day. It's the accumulation of so many bad days in a row. Of so many bad weeks. Just more and more traumatizing things, one after the next. I want to use this as a way of coming clean. Or not of coming clean, but being honest about how I currently feel. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I'm at rock bottom. I don't even know where to start this. Maybe a good way is by going back in time. It's 2017. I just started the first ever stream. First game that I ever streamed was Rainbow Six Siege. And this whole thing started off as kind of a joke. Nothing that was meant to be taken seriously. Just something that I thought was cool. Something that I thought that would be funny to do. That's how it started. And months just went by very quickly, and I tried to turn this whole fun thing into, well, maybe just something like a folder of different projects of me trying out different recipes for how I could make my own content, for how I could make my own character appear publicly in this world that we call the internet. And so that is what I did. So month after month and after month, I didn't stream very regularly. That I did not do. But I kept on trying new things. And I kept on coming back to it. I kept on feeling the urge to kind of try different things out, man. Try different things out with commentary, try different games out. Just try different things out, man. Like, just different challenges, different kinds of videos. I just tried different things out. And that continued, and a few years passed. And then it was 2020. And I think that is already where it started. Or maybe not quite. Maybe it really started in 2021. But with the whole quarantine thing in 2020, I started a couple of new projects. One of which being Five Nights at Freddy's, which back then came out for a console. I think it already came out somewhere in 2019, but I did actually play it in 2020 on console, which I was never able to do before because I didn't own a PC back then, because there was just no way. I couldn't afford it. My parents were too busy spending their money on useless fucking shit, and yeah, so I played some FNAF, and some really important people actually joined during that time frame. One of which being one of my moderators that has now disappeared, and we don't even know where the hell he is now. And within me playing through FNAF on console, some of, well, my most popular clips that are out there now with the most views came from those projects. They came from FNAF. That's where they came from. And yeah, then a few more months passed. We came towards the end of 2020, which is where I started my first ever Twitch stream. First time that I ever tried streaming on Twitch instead of YouTube. Yes, because believe it or not, for some reason I thought it was a good idea to stream everything that happened there back in YouTube. Don't know why, but that's just what I did. But yeah, I started my first stream on Twitch. It was Far Cry 4. That was the first game that I ever streamed on Twitch. And this is where I think things started to really go into a more serious, into a more serious trend. I started to, put some gasoline into the flame of passion. Yes, back then it was just passion that I had for streaming and content creation. Then some more months passed by. It was 2021. Started streaming Apex. I played that a lot. I did plenty of solo streams. I tried going for higher ranks. Tried showing off some gameplay. Tried out some different techniques for short-term content and edited some videos for that as well on the TikTok and stuff like that. That is where TikTok really started to like blow up, and everybody was using it, man. Especially during the quarantine. That is where things really went crazy with that. So yeah, then a few more months passed by. And that was also around the time, around March, April 2021. That was the first time that I uploaded a clip that actually went semi-viral. I think today it probably has like 250,000 views, 250,000 views. Back then I was kind of shocked seeing such a big number on my screen because I never saw anything even remotely close to that kind of number ever before. That was the first time. Which was in Subnautica. I think some of you guys know that clip, maybe you don't. It's not really important. But yeah. And this is the point. This is really the point where I think it's kind of like when I measure our time here on Twitch, doing this actively, doing it seriously, I kind of go back to one point in time, which was summer 2021. That was the time that was the time when we started the Towers of Time. And basically what or better said, my idea was to hit a leaderboard rank, a very specific one. I wanted to get into the top 10 of that mode, which was a Mortal Kombat 11, was called Towers of Time. I wanted to get into the top 10. And for the first time ever, I did a project, which was also in, it was during some holidays. I think it was summer holidays, but I'm not actually totally sure. I didn't use the entire summer holidays to actually do that. But yeah, so I did that. I grinded about 12 hours to 15 hours every day. Yes, I'm not kidding. I streamed for 12 to 15 hours a day in Mortal Kombat 11. Just playing that mode over and 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 over again. And at the end of the day, we did actually manage to do it, man. I did manage to get into the top 10. I actually managed to get to the top 3. And this is where things really started to like lift off. Because after that, my craving for those kind of challenges, it suddenly spiked. It suddenly spiked. And then towards the end of 2021 is where I continued to play the other FNAF games. Because back then when I played FNAF 1 in 2020, it was also a time where those games were kind of broken. But when I continued to play them in 2021, they were fine. So I played through FNAF Sister Location. I did the Pizzeria Simulator. I got all of those games to 100%. Did all of them, and yeah. That was also around the time where FNAF Security Breach came out. And that is where I posted my first clip that actually went, I think you could consider it to be viral. Over 1 million views. over 1 million views on me beating 420 mode in FNAF 1. That was the first time that any piece of media that I posted, whether it's a comment, whether it's a post, whether it's whatever the hell, it was the first time ever that I got over 1 million. And up until this point, it stayed that way. Got pretty close, but not even really. We're like halfway. And yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked. That is also where I got most of my followers from that I currently have on TikTok. Like, it spiked. It spiked big time. That was during that time where FNAF was in its all-time peak of popularity. I know that like back in 2014, 2015, anywhere between 2014 to 2020, that is where, like, it, of course, also, well, got a massive following. But that is where FNAF was, like, at its peak when it came to the modern era of, like, short-term content of TikTok and all that stuff. That is what really spiked. And where every FNAF post legitimately just went viral. Or pretty close to that. So yeah, then we continued the FNAF security breach. We completed all of the FNAF games. Got all that to 100%. Then we went towards a very important clip that happened during Ultimate Custom Night, the final game. Actually, not the final one. I think I did Ultimate Custom Night before security breach. There's one thing that I said that was very important. One thing. I said, there's no way that Dark Souls is more difficult than FNAF. That one line determined the next 3.5 years, or almost 4 years that came after that, man. So after saying that, I decided to start my biggest challenge yet. The Souls Marathon. The biggest challenge. The biggest project that I have ever started. Ever. The goal was to go through each and every single Soulsborne game and many different major Souls-like games and get all of those games to 100%, meaning that I get every single achievement. We did that on PlayStation, so we got all of the PlayStation trophies, including, if the game did actually have it, including some of the DLC trophies. Not some of the DLC trophies, all of the DLC trophies. Because with some games, well, there wasn't actually any DLC trophies, despite there being a DLC. So yeah, we started that, and the first 46 days, all of those streams, all of those 46 parts, all of them were 10 hours plus. 46 days in a row. Every single day. 10 hours plus. Every single day. The reason why I decided to go so heavily about it was also just because a month or 2 months before that, I had a realization that I've talked many times about. I've talked many times about that before, where there was that very important event where I decided to abandon the path that my back then best friend was going down. The whole drug bullshit, the whole alcohol bullshit, just wasting time, just doing fucking nothing and being stupid. That was also around the time where, well, I got caught stealing for the first time. So it all kind of connected to each other, and it all led to the realization again. I already talked about that many times before, which is why I decided to go so heavily about this, because I wanted to make my mark. I wanted to set an exclamation mark. I wanted to show, yo, I'm serious about this. I want this to be my thing. I want RDK to be the biggest thing, to be my thing, to be my brand, my face, my emotions, my words, my everything. So that's what I did. I started the Souls Marathon. We expanded the list along the way. I started going towards the end of my school time. And especially in that final time, I started to feel the consequence of grinding so much, of isolating myself relentlessly, just relentlessly grinding every single day, being alive every day, despite being sick, ill, and fucking tired, man. Being there every single fucking day and doing that goddamn bullshit. That's where I really started to feel the effects. Because it started in the school. I started to feel the effects of being majorly isolated. Especially because naturally I'm a more of a social person. And social connection is actually quite important to me. I just didn't really know that at the time, because back then when I was 15, 16, around that time, it wasn't really that important yet. But I started to feel the effects. And around the end of 2022, where I was only 6 months away from being done with school, it was very clear that in order to reach the next level with RDK, I would have to go for some major upgrades. Not just going up a console generation. No, I would need a really, really, really expensive, really professional PC setup to be able to seriously level up my content and my content production. And of course I didn't have the money to be able to afford all of that. So, and my parents wouldn't, well, give me the money that I needed. So realistically, I had one choice. Because I was almost done with school, there was one choice. One thing that I could do, which was to start an apprenticeship. And this is where we get into the gritty part, because that is the start of my apprenticeship. That was around the time where things really started to go downhill. Months passed by. I got accepted for the apprenticeship that I applied for. Months passed by. I got closer and closer to the end of school. I kept on grinding the Souls Marathon. Grinded Siege. Hit champion for the first time on Siege. Got myself my first ever monitor. Before that I was playing on TV the entire time. We went through the Neo time. We went through all of those things. Kept on grinding the Souls Marathon the entire time. Just went through that like a fucking machine. The list just got longer and longer with the games that I wanted to play. And then it was time. It was July 2023. And on August 1st, 2023, my apprenticeship would start. And that was the point where things really, seriously, started to go into a very dark direction. I never really had the urge, or never really had the feeling like I was missing out on platonic or romantical connection. Of course, I was still fighting, well, of course, I still had that thing with the betrayal of my best friend in my head with how he treated me afterwards as well. Because, again, keep in mind, I tried to cut contact in the way he just tried to keep on intervening into me trying to get away from all that. So I had that in the back of my head, of course, but there's one very specific girl. There was one very specific one. And in that moment, when we did like the first week, that was the moment where I fell in love for the first time. Not because of any personality traits or anything like that. No, I fell in love because of her looks. And that was the point where I started to really feel that the path that I've chosen has some consequences. Some major consequences. And that is where it started to really hit me. A few more months passed by. We went into winter 2023. I kept on grinding, but this time I felt different. First of all, I was in a time where I really didn't sleep anywhere near enough. I was actively sleep deprived, heavily sleep deprived, actually. There were entire weeks where I just would survive on 10 hours of sleep, grinding through the streams. Again, back then I still had the 5-hour rule. And I used to grind like a madman. I still grind now, but back then it was seriously, like, dangerous. Health-wise as well. It was legitimately fucking dangerous. So yeah, I started to feel the effects. I started to feel like something was missing. I know that I didn't mention the event of my grandpa's passing, which happened just before the end of 2022, but that wasn't really that deep because it was kind of expected, more or less, which is why I didn't mention that. But of course it was the start of, well, October also being like the worst month for my family and me and, well, yeah, myself. So yeah, then it was 2024. And I remember the way 2024 started for me. I wanted to do a 24-hour stream in Siege. And I remember that, like, the people that I wanted to show up, I was expecting to be at least 4 to 5 people for most of the duration of the stream. But no one showed up. No one showed up. I was already live for a couple of hours, just texting them, trying to call them. No one showed up. Nobody came. I was alone. And I remember that I was playing Siege. It was I think it was in Coastline. And I went down. I don't even know why I remember that so specifically, but I went into luggage, and there was a glass that was swinging inside from the balcony from Aquarium. And I remember he swung me and absolutely shit on me. And I just raged. I punched my table. Not because of the kill, but not because of the way I died, but because I was left alone. I was alone. And nobody cared enough to tell me why. And that was just minutes before it hit 2024. And I remember when it was 12 a.m., 1st of January 2024, I remember I was laying on my bed with the stream still running, just while there being the siege main menu on the screen. I remember laying there on my bed, looking at the ceiling, hearing the fireworks go off, and there were just tears running down my face. Not crying, but just pure heavy pain of knowing that I am alone with the pain that I carry. The pain of wanting success and just not showing, not seeing any of it. Despite work put in, despite improvements, despite upgrades, despite so many things that were sacrificed along the way. But yeah. So it was 2024, and I started to feel... That is where I really started to feel lonely. That's where I started to feel it, man. And keep in mind, I was still getting my hopes up with that one girl. I don't even want to say the Italian. I'm gonna say... No, fuck that, actually. It's not even important. But I remember that, and... Yeah. It was 2024. A few more months passed by. And the pain got worse. It got worse and worse and worse. A few months into 2024, which was around March, is where we finished the Souls Marathon. And that was the end of, that first, like, really big project that I did. That one, that really, like, that massive project that I did. And that was the end of it. I think we completed the total of 22, 23 games. I'm not even sure. Somewhere on that mark. And that was the end of it. I think we ended that on the 9th of March, 2024. I think that was the date. And in the making of the Souls Marathon, especially during that end time, there was a challenge called the God Run. The God Run 3, which was playing through all of the major Soulsborne games, or better said, all Soulsborne games, going through all of those games and no-hitting every single one of them in a row in one session without getting hit once. And yeah. Then it was April 2024. And I finally had the money that I needed to make the big move. To finally get myself out of the equipment pieces that I needed. To get the PC, to get the webcam, to get the microphone, to get everything that I needed to really make the next big step. And so I did. I ordered everything, set everything up, and on the 21st of April, after doing the last playthrough of the beloved Uncharted series, I started the first ever stream on PC, which was almost 2 years ago. Happened on the 21st of April, 2024. And yeah. I'm not gonna lie, the time, that starting time on PC was actually magical. The first month, like that end time of April 2024, that time was really magical. Honestly, it was like a little bit of the rest of the piece of the prime of Siege that was still left from 2023. And that was a good time. And then on May 9th, 2024, I started the God Run 3. Started the God Run 3. And stopped playing Siege. So months and months passed by. And I turned 18 in June 24, and that was also around the time reality finally hit me that I would have to let go of the fantasy of being together with that girl that I liked. Because I was ignoring one key fact. She was already in a relationship. And when I tried to make a semi-move that I didn't even do in person, by the way, I did that kind of indirectly over texting. I didn't do anything too crazy because that would have been really awkward, man, because I would still have to work, well, with her in the same building, so that would have been really bad. But yeah, I got hit with it. I got my heart broken for the first time. Oh man, and there'll be many more heartbreaks to follow after that, man. There'll be many more. Many more. It's also around the time where colleagues started to find out what I was doing. Like the whole streaming stuff. Some people started to find out. So that came in there as well. And yeah. That was also around the time where a very special person jumped back into the streams, which a person that was around for a long time. She was around since March 2022 to be exact. One of my viewers. And she only used to like pop in every once and again, just telling some weird ass stories. It was very weird. It was very, very peculiar. It really was. And yeah, she certainly seemed to enjoy the streams quite a bit. She seemed to enjoy her time here quite a bit. She seemed to enjoy it a lot. And then there was one very special day. 8th of July, 2024. That was the first time ever that I experienced that a girl literally like went up to me and showed genuine romantical interest in me. And that was the first time that I ever experienced that. Yeah, so that went on. We talked a lot, we texted a lot. Didn't take too long for her to send the first I love you text. And months passed by. It was a very good time in summer 24 with FC24 and just grinding that. Of course, there was the God Run 3 as well. And yeah. That's the point where we get into the really dark points. Where things started to really take a turn for the worst. October, November 2024. My parents have had issues for a long time. And I took many traumatical... I took a lot of traumatic hits. And trauma started to like build up ever since I was 11 years old. In October, November, that was the first time where things started to really escalate. And I saw the police in here more than just once. Long story short story. My dad basically got kicked out of the apartment. My parents stopped living together and he got his own apartment. And I was just living here with my mother. That Christmas was also very weird. That Christmas I spent alone here with my mother and my dad not being there. That was the first time that ever happened. But then in November, I was also hit with a very brutal truth, or, well, that I knew that my apprenticeship was not going to continue if I continued the way that I did. It started becoming very obvious that I was sleeping a lot in class. I wasn't really doing all too well performance-wise in the office as well. And so I had no other choice but to cancel the apprenticeship. I lost my job. Well, apprenticeship at the time. I kind of lost my parents indirectly. Because that was like the point where things really just never returned to the way they were before. And my loneliness and that feeling just started getting worse and worse. Because there were also problems with Nelly herself. Because I was also kind of like in an inner conflict of being almost 100% sure that like in the path to success and all that stuff that I could never be in a romantical relationship, that would be impossible. So I canceled the apprenticeship. I found the job, the place where I'm at now. Started there working part-time. A few more months passed by. It was 2025. And around the start of 2025 is also where some panic attacks from my side started happening. Because of a topic that I don't really want to address right now. Not as long as I'm not... just not smart. But at the start of 2025, that's also where my mother started to have her first real breakdowns. Where she had to go to the mental hospital, but she was literally laying on the couch for an entire week doing nothing. Well, the state of the apartment was just getting worse and worse. And that time was very, very depressing. Things were also not good with Nelly. That got even worse. Then her sister got involved into that story as well. And it got really messy, got really bad. I made plenty of mistakes. She made plenty of mistakes. Which will also be explained why that happened so much later on. But yeah, the next really big chapter, like the next thing that happened, was in April of 2025, where another very special person joined the stream for the first time. Can I say the name? I'm just gonna say the name. That was Vale. She joined the stream over a connection that I had to a friend, or well, just a friend knew her, and a friend told her that I streamed, and she just joined. And then my whole confusion with the whole romantical bullshit got even worse. I didn't know what I wanted anymore. I didn't know what I felt towards what. I was very confused. I was isolated. I was lonely. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was right. I didn't know. So, then it was May 2025. And, there were many blocks that happened between me and Nelly before that as well. And Vale also told me that it would be better to do so, given how toxic the relationship was between me and Nelly. The relationship. And then on May 21st, that was the first time in a long time that I broke down crying. Because I got the message that she was now together with one of my friends. Also over long distance. But they were not together. And that broke me. And that was the point where things got really bad. So much drama in the back of my head. So much. I was not taken care of, and then that happened as well. Then another month went by. Then she contacted me again. We decided to actually get together. We met up a couple of times. I ignored some really important facts because she was not of the age that she pretended to be. It could have actually got me into legal trouble. Well, theoretically, I could actually get her into legal trouble because what she did was illegal. And yeah. In October, the whole thing with my mother happened. I had to witness that scene. Then I found out about the fact that Nelly lied with her age. She left me as well. Then I had another platonic friendship betrayal with what happened with him. Somebody that I trusted, that I literally gifted my old monitor. Turns out what I knew about that person was a lie as well. Now my most recent mistake was with Lily. And that was... I had many dark points. I have made this obsession my entire life, while not paying attention to what I wanted outside of just this and disregarding that completely. And I got nothing to show for it. The reason why I told such a long backstory is because I want to come clean about the fact that I know that I said this before, but I've never been so close. I'm a danger to myself, as in that I'm considering, or better said, actively planning to commit the same thing that my mother did. And in my current state, with how everything went down, knowing that I can say this right now and nobody will give a shit. I just want to say that I have not made up my mind about that, like, 100% just yet. But I planned out how I would do it. I've hit rock bottom. I wanted you guys to know that very soon I might not be here anymore. It was never. It was always personal. Since the very beginning. Goodbye.